If you or someone you know has diabetes, you may have built up an extra supply of test strips and lancets. That's where we come in. We'll buy the supplies that you don't need and resell them to those in need to prevent waste. Help us make diabetes management more affordable. Visit us at teststripswithaz.com.
All right, back on the show is a man who got back in the win column this past Saturday night in Las Vegas. UFC 235 defeated Alejandro Perez. Cody Stamann is here. Cody, how are you, man?
I'm great, man. How are you?
I'm doing great. So you were coming off the loss to Aljamain Sterling, ready to get back in there. You take a fight on relatively short notice against a top 15 guy, a guy who had been unbeaten in his previous 7 fights. You get the victory, and you weren't happy about it. You weren't happy with your performmore. Why is that?
I mean, I just didn't feel like it was the most exciting fight. Honestly, I had more planned for that fight. The problem after watching it, I think, wasn't so much me. I think it was more Perez. He really didn't engage the way I thought he would, the way I had trained and seen him in the past, watching film and just, kind of knowing, his nickname is Perez, like Turbo Perez. I mean, the guy came out pretty flat. He was looking to counter. I was looking to counter him. I mean, my whole game plan was to fake and feint, and then capitalize, every single time he came in through the kick, through his jab. I mean, and then he just came out and he didn't really engage with me. He pretty much backed himself up and put his hands really high and just waited. And, so stylistically, with my game plan and stuff, it just didn't make for the most exciting fight. So, and, I kind of had to improvise inside the cage and kind of start getting offensive and going after him a little bit more. But, even then, in those lull moments, there was just no action. I was faking and feigning and moving, trying to do everything I could to get him to commit to something to counter, and it just didn't happen. And, in the cage, I was getting frustrated, but after watching it, I realized, it wasn't my fault. It was his. He just wasn't doing anything.
So after you went back and watched it, I mean, obviously being in the cage and kind of feeling yourself fighting, you feel a certain way after it's over. But after going back and watching it, did you feel a little bit better about how you performed overall?
Yeah. I felt like my counters were good. My timing was good. There was obviously things I believe I need to work on. But it was definitely a really, really good fight as far as something to learn and kind of jump off of. A good platform for me to move forward. Being that I don't have any injuries. My last few fights I've come out dinged up. Broken rib. Torn up knee. In this fight, I don't even have a scratch on my face. So no damage. Beat a top 15 guy, short notice. I can't really be too upset about anything. I just think I was kind of beating myself up because, there was opportunities that I saw inside the cage where I feel like I could have hit him and put him away, and I didn't pull the trigger. And that, that's just between me and me, not with anybody else.
I guess we have a special guest joining us on the program.
Yeah, dog jump up here.
That's right. Last time I had Rivera on, his dog showed up too and became a big feature on there. So I guess one of the cliche questions people ask coming off of fights when you speak to your opponent is did they do anything that surprised you? Is it safe to say that everything he did surprised you in a way because it was not really what you were expecting at all?
100%. The only thing he did that I watched in film was his that low calf kick that he threw. He threw it a lot and he threw it hard. And there was absolutely zero telegraph. It was hard for me to see that kick coming. I felt like my counters leading up to the fight for that kick specifically, I was going to make him pay for that kick if he ever threw it. And I didn't do that. But then he didn't throw any jabs. And every single fight I've watched before that, he's jab heavy. He throws more jabs than anyone I've seen in the whole division. His takedown defense was way better than I thought. I really did not imagine that he'd be as strong as he was in there. The dude shot on me. I couldn't believe it. I'd never seen him shoot before. When he got into my leg, I was just kind of whoa, what's going on? He's shooting at me? What is going on? I just wasn't expecting that. And like I said, I didn't even really try to defend it because I was more or less in shock that I got shot on by this guy. This guy's not known for his takedowns, but it was definitely not the fight I was expecting to get into. But like I said, I pride myself on being a pretty intelligent guy in there and kind of figuring people out. And that's kind of what I did with Perez. I had his number pretty early in that fight. I had his timing down. I kind of knew what was going to happen. I heard someone say, like, I was leading the dance the whole time, and I believe that's kind of how it all shook down.
You know, you were preparing for a certain fight. I'm sure your team was preparing for a certain fight. What were those conversations like between rounds? Because, you know, you weren't really getting the fight you expected, especially not getting the jabs that you're so used to. What were those conversations like?
Well, my boxing coach was ripping into me in between rounds. You know, she was like, I don't care if you're tired, you know, go after him. I'm like, I'm not tired. And she's like, well, show me. You know what I mean? I could see that she was, like, physically pissed at me, like, that because there wasn't enough action. She wanted me to throw my hands more. And then, you know, Darren was just kind of telling me, you know, that I was winning the rounds and, you know, to finish with a head kick. There wasn't really that many opportunities for me to open up and throw good combinations because he literally just stood like this the whole fight. You know what I mean? There wasn't a whole lot. I would get him out of position and he would just back up. You know what I mean? I wouldn't get him out of position and he would, like, try to throw on me. It was just more or less, you know, me, you know, trying to make something happen, and then him just taking a step backwards and never really engaging. And then, you know, we just do it all over again. I hit another fake, and he would just take a step back, wouldn't engage. And then I was forced to, you know what I mean, be the one that was going first, and that wasn't the fight that I was training for. But, you know, we got it done, and against a tough guy in Perez. Really tough guy, probably the physically strongest person I've ever fought in my life. And yeah, I'm happy with it. I'm happy moving forward. You know, I don't really have, everyone's asking me, you know, who's next. I mean, I'm like, dude, there's a whole roster of guys that I could fight. I can't really pinpoint it right now. It hasn't even been a week, but you know, I don't think there's a guy right now that on the roster that I'm like, man, absolutely not. I'm not fighting that guy. You know, I think I could literally fight anybody from the guy that just got signed to someone in belt contention.
It was one of the things we talked about heading into that fight was how cool it would be for you to fight on ESPN, and, you know, you talking to your dad about it and how excited he was that you're fighting on ESPN. Did it kind of live up to the expectations? Did you even feel like you were fighting on ESPN when you were in there?
100%. Everything. But the fight's always the same. You know what I mean? For me, I don't care if it's on ESPN or if I'm fighting in a bar. I have the same mentality going into it. But after the fight, I realized, like, I got like 5,000 or 7,000 followers on Instagram in like 5 seconds. You know what I mean? I got, I was going to lunch with my manager Jason House the next day, and as I'm walking to lunch, I turn and look, and I'm like I'm on TV. You know, they're showing like a highlight of my fight, and then, you know, me getting my hand raised, and I was just like, it kind of hit me right there. I was like, ooh, this isn't what I'm used to. You know, I mean, this is crazy. And then, you know, people were coming up to me in the airport. Actually, one of the TSA guys was like, he like looked at me, looked at my ID, looked at me, and like kind of gave me this weird look. And he was like, man, you know, I got a scratch on you. That was an awesome fight this weekend. And I was like, oh, okay. I was scared. I'm like, what's going on, man? He was like, yeah, great fight, you know. And it was just a whole different, you know, I mean, I've gotten a little bit of that, but it was a different level. Even back home now, I think, you know, it was just so accessible for everyone. I think there's a lot more eyes on my career, maybe double what there was before that fight.
Yeah, it did really good on the ratings for the night as well, and that usually leads to pay-per-view buys. So you guys set the table with how they stacked that ESPN card. And you know, speaking of the night in general, I mean, it was a night full of storylines, and the bantamweight division had some really interesting matchups. Yours and Alejandro's, and not long after, Pedro Munoz made a statement, knocking out Cody Garbrandt in the first round. I'm sure, you know, coming off of your fight, you were kind of disappointed in your performance, but that's a fight you're going to be interested in. These are two guys you could potentially match up with. What did you think of Pedro's performance? And on the flip side, you know, what are your thoughts on what's been happening with Cody since he won the belt in December of 2016?
Well, I think the biggest thing is Pedro knew exactly what he was going to do in there. He had like a very specific game plan. I thought he fought Cody like beautifully. He was trying to get Cody to get into a bar fight with him, trying to brawl with him, trying to land that big overhand right that he likes to throw. He was throwing that low calf kick. You know, he was looking for those quick submissions, grappling exchanges, and stuff that Pedro's really, really good at. I just felt like tactically, you know, Pedro fought the better fight that night. And he was goading Cody into getting into that into that fight. I mean, I think somebody has been watching film on the way. You know, Cody dips his head out when he throws his overhand. And, you know, Pedro just beat him to the punch that night. I mean, either one of those guys could have went down though. You know, if it had been a half a second different, you know, maybe Pedro would be the one laying on the ground. But yeah, I mean, hats off to Pedro Munoz. You know, obviously Garbrandt's not an easy guy to beat. You know, he's the champ. He's one of the best guys in the world, you know, because he's got crazy power in his hands. And, you know, Pedro Munoz went out there and kind of did what no one thought he would do and just stood in the pocket and traded like a gangster with him. And it was an awesome fight to watch.
After the fight, you spoke to the media. You said you were planning on calling out someone. You didn't feel like your performance justified a call out. You just said here that, you know, you haven't really pinpointed that. But my first thought coming out of the fight, I know Peter Yan's been calling him out. Like, you and Rivera have been tied together for a couple of different occasions, whether it be, you know, all those different things that happened in December of last year, trying to get a fight together. I know you were close to fighting in Boston. That fight was talked about. It never came to fruition. I know, you know, for your last fight, for Rivera's last fight, you were talked about before he got matched up with Aljamain Sterling. I feel like the time is now for a fight between you and Jimmy Rivera. I think the stars have lined up. Do you feel like if you're going to put a wager on a fight, do you think they're going to lean towards Rivera at this point with all the attempts they've made at this point?
The only thing that I could see the reason that Rivera and I wouldn't fight is because he's coming off a loss. I'm coming off a win. Normally they don't like to match guys up like that. But yeah, he's one of 3 people I believe that will be my next opponent. I don't think I'm going to get anybody outside the top 15. I think it's going to be him, that Ricky Simon kid who just got ranked in the top 15 who's coming off a win. Or maybe like a Thomas Almeida. But I guess if I had to guess, it would be Jimmy. It's just a timing thing. I don't know who's ready, who's negotiations. You know, maybe Jimmy's already in negotiations for another fight. I don't know. Said it's still pretty early, but there's really, like I said, there's really not anyone on the roster that I'm seeing right now that is like a hard no for me, like moving forward. You know, if it's Jimmy, I think he looked like shit his last fight. I mean, he didn't even show up to fight. He got beat up by Sterling, a guy that I felt like I was beating. You know, and I think he kind of got exposed for being a kind of a one-dimensional, flat-footed guy. So if it's Jimmy, you know, I think Sterling just wrote the the blueprint on how to beat him. So so be it. You know, if he's the guy, you know, I'm healthy. Sign me up. When's the next Vegas card?
International Fight Week.
Ooh.
So there you go. Imagine being on.
Yeah,
get you on ESPN for International Fight Week. You know how many eyes are going to be on you then? Holy moly.
Yeah, I wouldn't complain about that.
Do you have a time frame on when you like to get back in there? I mean, it was about 6 months between fights for you. Based on our last conversation, I don't think another 6-month layoff would be something you want to do.
Definitely not. I mean, definitely not. I mean, I think I'd like to travel. I want to do some traveling. I want to work with some different guys, and just grow, get better, you know. And bring that into my next fight, you know, and just keep this ball rolling. I'm healthy right now. If they called me right now and they're like, hey, do you want to fight in 2 months? I would 100% say yes. If it's June, July that I'm looking at, I definitely want to fight on that International Fight Week card at the beginning of July, or there's also a card in Chicago. But that's only a 1 month difference. And in a fighting career, 1 month is really, really nothing. I've learned that, you know, you can fight twice a year in the UFC, and that's not that uncommon. However, it pays a lot better to fight more. So, you know, I'd like to stay busy. You know, while I'm healthy, I feel like I'm my best when I'm hitting and when I'm fighting consistently. I feel like I'm better in the cage. You know, like before I got in the UFC, I went on a tear. I fought, you know, 5 times in 11 months, and like that was the sharpest I'd ever been towards the end of that reign, because I was fighting so much. There was really no rest, like in between camps. It was just like I was just getting ready for a fight, you know, for a year straight. And I like that. I like to fight. I like to compete, and I'd like to stay busy this year and you know, make some serious money.
I know you had spoken to the great James Lynch heading into the fight, and you know, him and I always come full circle. We always seem to like mention each other in these chats because we always kind of feed off each other in a way because we watch each other's stuff all the time. But I know you guys discussed KOP getting on UFC Fight Pass, and they've been been removed from that opportunity due to Josh Medley, the promoter of KOP, and some racist statements that came back to light. And it seemed like a couple of hours after your interview dropped, that's when it happened. Not saying that you're fully responsible. I think the writing was on the wall, but you made it clear how you felt about the situation. And now that the situation has changed, how do you react to that?
Well, here's the thing. The people that were being treated like they're less than human and being called names that no one should ever be called. Those people are not just, fighters. If they were any kind of fighter, any kind of person, I would obviously stick up for them just because that's who I am. I don't, believe in those kinds of things, but they're my friends. These are guys that I hang out with. These are guys like I'm going to watch them fight this weekend, and I'm not gonna name any names just because I don't want to give a negative thing any more attention than it's already gotten. But like you said, someone already made their bed. I think the truth just came out, and I'm not sure how it didn't get out before that, but eventually it was getting out, whether it was me or somebody else, or, I would give James Lynch all the credit for that. He's the one that mentioned it. All I did was say that, yeah, that's true and it's wrong. And you definitely don't deserve to be in a position of power if you're saying and doing things like that. So I'm happy that there's a little bit of justice being served here. I do think that the person responsible for this needs to apologize. They need to apologize, not because it's going to make everything right, but because it's the right thing to do. It's the manly thing to do. They need to apologize, and they need to do everything they can to reprimand the situation, and then, if they apologize and they do all the right things, obviously, there's still going to be that stain there that never goes away, but at least then, they can get that off their conscience.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense, and well said. I wasn't trying to be negative. I just wanted to kind of get your take on that. I'm sure you feel one way for the fighters that were involved, but yeah. It's
a negative situation. I mean, you can't, there's no avoiding it. No, I mean, that's not my fault, your fault. It's just, it's a raw deal, and the people involved, it's a raw deal for them, not for me.
I was hoping to see you playing video games with James Lynch and doing an interview out in out in Vegas. Did he ask you to do that, and if he didn't, are you bummed that you didn't get asked?
Yeah, Ed Knapp asked me if I wanted to do it on Thursday, but man, I cut a lot of weight. I'm telling you, it wouldn't even be fun. I'd be like sitting there like staring at the TV, like looking like a zombie. Yeah, I wasn't in any shape to. I think I was like 139 pounds, like basically like walking from laying on the couch to walking to my bed to going to the couch to walking to my bed, and that's pretty much all the activity I had on Thursday. So I wouldn't have been a very good person to video.
How's Brooks doing? I know he's got a fight coming up. How's he feeling? I know he's got a lot. He feels like he's got a lot to prove coming up. How's he looking? How's he feeling?
Yeah, he looks good. He looks really good. We actually we had a really good sparring session right before I left, and he was looking sharp. Best I've ever seen him look on his feet, for sure. He's a talented kid, really talented. Freakishly strong. I mean, the kid, like, it's the weirdest thing. He's like got like the most strong core. I mean, he could be like a gymnast. Like, things he can do are just crazy. So yeah, he's a nightmare for anybody. I mean, at 125 pounds, I mean, locally, I think he's just gonna absolutely maul everybody. And hopefully he gets a shot at Bellator or somewhere that he can start making some legit money again.
Yeah, I could agree with you there. Jared's a great interview too, and true or false, Jared Brooks is going to wrap himself to the cage when he fights.
I hope it's true.
So do I.
I hope it's true. If it is true, it will be on my Instagram. I promise. I will be there right next to him with my phone ready.
Oh, I love it. Oh, we got to do that. We have to make that happen, Cody. I think between you and I, we can make some magic happen. Cody, congratulations on the win, man. Well done. It's a big win against a really tough guy. And I know you weren't thrilled about your performance, but I think you impressed a lot of people, and a lot of people got to watch you do your thing. So before we get out of here, like always, let everyone know where to find and follow you on the web, social media, shout out sponsors. Go right ahead, man.
Everything's just Cody Stamann, CodyStamann. I got to thank, my management, Redeem Sports. They really took really good care of me this fight, everything I needed. Thanks for the interview, and I look forward to announcing the next one. I mean, I'm already it's 4 days in, and I had to force myself not to go to the gym today. I was trying to find stuff to do, instead of going to the gym. I'm man, I'm ready to get training again, get moving around, and I remember I'm on vacation, just relax, dude.
Enjoy the time off, enjoy the traveling. Hope you get to do all that stuff, and we'll talk soon, man.
All right, thank you.